Let's start off by talking about the definition of organizational change. Organizational change is really something that runs in parallel with the overall project management and the overall technical implementation of an ERP solution. The idea is that this parallel work stream and related work streams would address the human interfaces or the organizational aspects of the ERP project. So this would include your employees and which you may also refer to as system users, although I've never really liked that term. I'd rather refer to them as just employees. But the human interface refers to employees and non-users, so external people external to the organization. That might be vendors and suppliers or other people that are going to be affected by your ERP initiative. And organizational change includes a lot more than just training. I think a lot of people, when they think of organizational change, they think training. You know, if we train people, everything will be fine, and that'll get everyone up to speed. But there's a lot more to it. There's communications, evaluation, development, reporting, and any other investment in human capital is a key part of what we mean by organizational change. And sort of the guiding philosophy behind organizational change management, at least the way Panorama sees things and approaches organizational change, is that software isn't really what delivers benefits or performance improvements to your organization. Software does give you a tool to be able to do that, but it's at the end of the day the people and the business processes that they execute that are going to deliver those benefits. So it really adds another dimension to what is commonly viewed as the core of ERP, which is kind of the implementation of the software. We look at organizational change as adding that extra dimension that actually bridges the gap between the technology and the business improvements that you're expecting to see. So we don't really see, in fact, we don't see organizational change management as an optional, nice-to-have thing on an ERP project. It really is a critical success factor. In fact, if you look at every single ERP lawsuit that we've been asked to be an expert witness to, when you go back and look at what went wrong in those projects, every single one we've worked with has had some critical missing links in the organizational change management component. So it clearly is something that is a critical success factor. It's not an optional thing. It's something that needs to happen. And the real orientation of organizational change is toward people and making sure that you've got alignment and accountability with people as it relates to your organizational or as it relates to your ERP implementation. So if we talk about critical success factors for ERP implementations, one thing we'd like to do is look at the top reasons for ERP failure. So we won't walk through each of these, but if you kind of just glance through the list here, and this is based on our research and experience over the years, we've tried to summarize what it is that makes ERP projects fail and what is it that makes the successful one successful, and what are the differences between the two. So we have a pattern here. We have 9 patterns that we've identified in our research and experience. And if you look through this list, you can see that the items highlighted in blue are either directly or indirectly related to organizational change management. So as we talk about today's concepts that we'll go through, basically what we're saying is 6 out of the 9 things that we've got listed here are affected by organizational change. So if you think of organizational change as something that is kind of a root cause or a driver of some of the other things that'll lead to success, that really highlights the importance of organizational change. Because if you've got an effective organizational change management plan in place, you're going to address these 6 things highlighted in blue. And actually the other 3 in some ways are affected by OCM as well, but especially those 6 highlighted in blue there. Now if we look at again, building on why change management is important, why is it a critical success factor, each year we publish our ERP report, which is a study of hundreds, over 1,000 different ERP implementations across the globe. And by the way, if you haven't seen that, you can download that on our website. And next week, actually, we're publishing our 2011 ERP report. But for the time being, feel free to download the 2010 report. And what that report does is just identifies and summarizes some of the data that we've captured over the years related to real ERP implementations across the globe. And the message behind the data, or what the data shows us, is that most ERP projects go over budget, take longer than expected, or suffer operational stoppages at the time of go live. So obviously every ERP implementation is not a slam dunk, and you can see in the data here that a lot of ERP projects and initiatives struggle. If they don't outright fail, they struggle along the way to deliver what's expected, which is to come in on time, come in on budget, and deliver real business benefits. So that's why organizational change is so important. And now, actually, if we this is actually somewhat of a redundant slide, but it actually just gives updated data from our 2011 report. So the new data shows that more projects are taking longer than expected and costing more than expected, and more are failing to deliver at least 50% of the expected business benefits. So as that report comes out, you'll see the trend there, and what the pattern is that while companies are spending less time and less money on ERP initiatives now than they were last year or 2 years ago, which is good news. It means some of those cost overruns are coming into control. But the bad news is that according to expectations, or when we compare actual results to expectations, more and more of them are failing to deliver against those expectations. So again, this is key to organizational change management, because change management allows you to address some of the issues that cause some of the pains that ERP implementations often see. So the reason change management is so important is that in addition to just the data, so you kind of look at those tangible pieces that we just talked about, but then let's talk about more of the qualitative or the intangible pieces of why change management is so important. And when you think about it, ERP is really, it's the guts of your entire organization. And so when you replace your ERP system, you're affecting everyone in the organization. So whether you're a 5 or 10 person startup company or a relatively young company, or whether you're a multi-billion-dollar multinational company, everyone in that organization is going to be affected by the new ERP system, even if they're not direct users of the system. So as a result of ERP, it's not just about a new system that people have to learn. There's a lot of changes that go along with that. It's obviously a new system to help them perform their day-to-day jobs, but it's also it involves new business processes and a new way of doing business. It involves more exposure to and more interaction with new business processes and data. So there's just a lot behind it that goes beyond just doing transactions differently or in a different system than what was done before. So it's important to understand that. And people can't embrace those changes if they don't fully understand it. And organizational change is a way to do this through communication and other mechanisms beyond just the simple end user training that most ERP projects do take into account. And it's important to balance between the need for change management and then looking at the timing of the messages and working within the constraints of budget, time, duration, resources, etc. So we acknowledge that change management can be a tough thing to work into ERP implementation plans with budget constraints and that sort of thing. But what we've seen in the data and in our experience is that when you spend the time and money on organizational change, you're actually reducing your overall total cost of ownership and increasing your overall business benefits. So at the end of the day, OCM ends up costing you a lot less over time than if you didn't have it in place. So if we continue with the thought of why change management is important, employees that are about to transition to a new system need to understand and be presented with information to ease that transition, as we talked about. And they also need to understand, in addition to the system training, why is the company switching to ERP? How and when will their job be affected? How is it going to improve their jobs? How is it going to make the company more effective? So there's a lot of different things. Those are just a few examples of different things that organizations need to do well before training as part of their organizational change management plan to make sure that people are kind of moving along, and it's not just an overnight, we do a 3-day training course and everyone's on board. There's a lot of communications, a lot of things that need to happen up front to kind of move the barometer a little bit and kind of move the needle in terms of where people are and their comfort levels. And it's a long process, and it's something that you want to start early in your implementation, leading up to and culminating in that final end user training, which by the time that comes, that should be almost a formality at that point, because people should be pretty comfortable with the overall processes, with the overall changes to the company, and that just kind of validates and adds a level of detail of understanding on how the system's going to work by the time you get to that point. So some of the critical success factors for organizational change management and just in general, and we have a whole methodology behind change management that takes a lot of these concepts and kind of builds them into a kind of a pragmatic, action-oriented type of plan. But you'll see these themes are kind of embedded throughout some of those organizational change management work streams and activities that we execute. So the first is truth, and getting the information out there openly in terms of full disclosure, providing employees and key stakeholders an opportunity to share their open dissent. And there is going to be resistance to change. There is going to be concern, and you want to make sure you have an avenue to work some of those things out before you get to training. And again, I'm kind of using the standard ERP project, or the standard troubled ERP project that underinvested in change management and only does end user training. I'm kind of using that as a comparison point here as we talk about change management, because I think that's where a lot of projects are, is they just do end user training. So I'll keep referring back to that, kind of your average or your typical ERP implementation as we go through this. The second area is accountability. So making sure roles and responsibilities, that's what we mean by R&R on the slide here. Making sure the roles and responsibilities are clarified. People understand consequences, how they're going to be measured, what the consequences are of achieving or not achieving those results. So accountability is key. Providing leadership as part of the organizational change is extremely important. So that's where your executive team and your management team provides arguably the most support. Engagement, making sure that we've got the right people engaged and participating and prioritizing change management activities. And then alignment, so making sure we've got goal alignment and actions that are coordinated. And those are really the critical success factors within change management. And again, these are concepts and critical success factors that are built into our change management plans. And we'll show you a summary of that here a few slides down.